The Civil War amendments were sort of the nickname given to the three amendments, 13, 14, and 15, that were proposed and ratified in the aftermath of the Civil War in 1864, right around that time period, through the early 1870s. And the initial purpose of these Civil War amendments was to provide some resemblance of civil rights to African Americans following the conclusion of the Civil War. So these are some of the most impactful amendments in American history, and obviously of super significance to the origins of the civil rights movement. So the 13th Amendment officially abolishes slavery, which is clearly one of the most impactful outcomes of the Civil War. So the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. The 14th Amendment is significant for several different reasons. One of the initial sort of like purposes of the 14th Amendment immediately was that if you're going to abolish slavery, you were going to provide citizenship to all former slaves. So the 14th Amendment's sort of initial clause, the initial part of it, classifies all former slaves as like citizens. And then there are some other sort of important parts of the 14th Amendment as well. The next little bit where it says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's also referred to as the Due Process Clause. And what that establishes is something we've previously talked about, which is incorporation. Initially, the Bill of Rights only applied to sort of limiting the actions of the national government. The states didn't really have to follow it. With the passage of the 14th Amendment following the Civil War, because states are specifically mentioned as not being able to take away the rights of citizens, this now applies the Bill of Rights to govern the actions of the state governments as well. This is a process known as incorporation, which is applying the Bill of Rights not just to the national government, but also to the actions of the state government. And then the last part is, again, super relevant to civil rights, where it says, nor shall any state deprive any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This is referred to as the Equal Protection Clause, and it's super impactful because it's really the basis for all discrimination lawsuits in this country. If you are not being treated equally under the law, you are alleging that your 14th Amendment rights were violated. So the 14th Amendment is really significant for three different reasons. And then the 15th Amendment provides African American males with the right to vote. This is an amendment that like looks great on paper, but its actual influence was relatively like limited and muted by some of the actions that the state governments in the South took to sort of really get around this requirement of having to allow African American males to vote. So 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments are known as the Civil War amendments, and they're significant in providing initial civil rights to African Americans following the Civil War.